What makes a country a country? Is it a line on a map, a flag in the wind? The journey from a territory to a sovereign nation is one of the most complex processes in our world, a quest for identity, autonomy, and a seat at the global table. At the heart of this quest lies the concept of sovereign statehood, and its definition is rooted in a landmark international agreement. The 1933 Montevideo Convention provides the classic framework, outlining 4 key criteria. First, a permanent population. This isn't just about a minimum number of people, but a stable, continuous community. It's the human fabric of the nation, the people who build its culture, drive its economy, and share a collective will to live together as a distinct society. Second, a defined territory. This is the physical space the nation calls home, with borders separating it from its neighbors. While these borders can be disputed, the state must have a stable core territory over which it exercises control. This land is the stage upon which the nation's history is written, and its future unfolds. Third, a functioning government. This is the state's political apparatus, the institution that provides order, protects citizens, and manages public services. It must exercise effective control over its territory, independent of outside forces. This is the principle of internal sovereignty, the supreme authority within one's own borders, free from the control of any other state. Finally, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. This means it can make treaties, send ambassadors, and participate in international affairs as an independent equal. This external sovereignty is crucial, as it signals to the world that the nation is the master of its own destiny, not a colony or a puppet state. However, meeting these criteria is often just the beginning. The concept of recognition adds a deeply political layer. The Montevideo Convention champions the declarative theory of statehood. If you meet the criteria, you a state, whether or not others agree. But in practice, the constitutive theory often holds more sway. The idea that a state only truly exists when it is recognized by other established states. This recognition can be a powerful political tool, creating a world of de facto states that exist in limbo, possessing all the attributes of a nation but lacking a formal place in the international community. To be recognized as a sovereign state on the world stage, a political entity must meet 4 fundamental criteria established in international law. These pillars define a nation's very existence. The first is a stable population. This doesn't refer to a fixed number but to a permanent community of people residing within the state's boundaries. Whether a nation of billions or just a few thousand, what matters is the continuous and enduring presence of its inhabitants. This population forms the social fabric of the state, a diverse tapestry of individuals from all walks of life and backgrounds, bound together by the common threads of citizenship and national identity. Next, a state must have a clearly defined territory. This is the specific geographical area, encompassing land, water, and airspace, over which the state exercises control. These borders, whether formed by natural landmarks like rivers and mountains, or drawn as lines on a map, are crucial. They delineate the physical extent of a state's authority, helping to prevent disputes with neighbors and allowing the government to manage resources and enforce its laws within a recognized and undisputed space. Within this territory there must be an established government. This is the administrative and political apparatus that exercises effective control. While forms of government vary widely, from democracies to monarchies, the key requirement is a functioning authority that can create and enforce laws, maintain public order, provide essential services for its population, and manage the state's affairs. Without an effective government, a state is merely a territory with people, lacking the organization to function. Finally, and perhaps most critically, a state must possess sovereignty, the capacity to engage with other states. This means it is independent and free from external control, able to govern itself without outside interference. This independence is demonstrated through actions like entering into treaties, exchanging ambassadors, and joining international organizations such as the United Nations. It is this recognition by the global community that ultimately solidifies a nation's status as a true sovereign state on the world stage. At the heart of statehood lies the principle of sovereign control, which is inextricably linked to the right of self-determination. This fundamental concept asserts that a people have the inherent authority to freely choose their sovereignty and international political status without external compulsion or interference. A sovereign nation, therefore, wields the power to manage its own destiny. Internally, this means creating laws, establishing justice systems, managing its economy, and controlling its natural resources for the benefit of its population. Externally, it involves the capacity to forge treaties, engage in diplomacy, declare war or peace, and participate as an equal in the global community. This right was a powerful driver behind the decolonization movements of the 20th century, as nations across Africa, Asia, and the Americas fought to cast off colonial rule and chart their own course. The question, however, is not just about declaring independence, but about how that declaration is legitimized on the world stage. This brings us to a central debate in international law, framed by two competing ideas: the declarative and constitutive theories of statehood. The declarative theory, most famously codified in the 1933 Montevideo Convention, offers an objective, checklist-style approach. It posits that an entity is a state if it meets four specific criteria. First, a permanent population. The size is irrelevant, but there must be a stable community. Second, a defined territory. While border disputes are common, there must be a core area under consistent control. Third, a government. This government must exercise effective authority within its territory and be independent of other states. And fourth, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. This demonstrates true independence on the international stage. From this perspective, statehood is a matter of fact. If you meet the criteria, you are a state, regardless of whether other countries agree. In stark contrast, the constitutive theory argues that statehood is not a right, but a privilege granted by other nations. According to this view, an entity only becomes a state when it is recognized as such by the existing community of states. It treats statehood as a political act, not a factual status. This theory, however, is fraught with problems. How many recognitions are necessary? Is recognition from a major power more valuable than from a smaller one? This approach can make statehood dependent on the political whims and strategic interests of powerful countries, potentially denying legitimate states their rights simply because they are politically inconvenient. While modern international law generally favors the declarative theory, the political reality is far more complex. In practice, a state's existence is a tense interplay between these two poles. An entity like Somaliland may have a functioning government, a defined territory, and a population for decades, meeting all declarative criteria, yet its lack of widespread international recognition prevents it from fully operating as a sovereign state. This is why international recognition, even if not a strict legal requirement under the declarative view, is profoundly important. Acknowledgement from other nations is the key that unlocks meaningful participation in the international system. Without it, a state is diplomatically isolated, unable to establish embassies, join critical international organizations like the United Nations or the World Health Organization, or be a party to international treaties. Economically, non-recognition can be devastating. The state cannot easily access global financial markets, secure loans from the World Bank or IMF, or engage in formal trade agreements, crippling its development. Its currency may be worthless abroad, and its citizens become international pariahs, their passports unrecognized, severely restricting their freedom of movement for work, education, or travel. Ultimately, recognition provides a shield of legitimacy. It reinforces a state's claim to sovereignty and territorial integrity, making it less vulnerable to external aggression, as an attack would be seen as a clear violation of international law. Thus, while a state may exist in fact, it is through the act of recognition that it can truly live and thrive within the family of nations. Historical background. The notion of state sovereignty gained significant traction following the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, which laid down fundamental principles of non-interference and equality among nations.